Hi. Yeah, Anusha here. We'll start in another 1 minute at 10. Okay. Welcome, class. This is Anusha. We have 33 participants so far. I'm going to be recording the lecture and also uploading it on YouTube and sharing the link with Priya ma'am so that she can share it with you. And today's entire session is on an orientation and an overview that you will have of the course. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So first, this is going to be interactive. It has a lot of, understanding of what these kinds of modules are about. But I would like to understand from you what you think of stylistic and linguistic. What do you think linguistics is or style is? What do you think? Anyone?
Ma'am, could it, just making a guess,
Yeah.
could it be something to do with the rhyming in poetry, the rhythm in poetry, maybe?
Yes, it is.
I also feel that the linguistic of any particular text reflects the background or the era in which the text was written.
Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am, it could also be about the origin of words.
Origin of words. Okay. No. All right. So yes, to some of what you have said, no to some of what you have come up with. The paper definitely talks about aspects that you would have with respect to with respect to the entire premise of what linguistic stylistic analysis would mean, is that you would basically be trying to showcase for yourselves a lot of understanding of the linguistic, which is basically the diction, the vocabulary, and the grammar portion of what the elements are going to be like, right? So what does that mean when I say that it is going to be a mixture of linguistic analysis in terms of the grammar and the vocabulary? Let us take up something very simple. If I give you two words and I say that it is going to be nouns. So for instance, he sat at the table and he sat at the desk. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between he sat at the table and he sat at the desk?
वीडियो ऑन नहीं है
इसमें वीडियो ऑन नहीं है. Excuse me, the ones who are talking, if you are talking to us, then... Right. Okay, I'm muted. He sat at the table, he sat at the desk. Is there a difference? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No?
No difference.
Only the word, ma'am, maybe the noun is different, but the application is quite similar. I mean, the meaning may be similar, but the word used is different. That's it.
So what does a desk mean? What does a desk imply?
A desk would probably mean like like a student's desk, maybe a smaller table, especially for the purpose of like studies or something. And a table
Correct.
would mean like something larger, like a dining table.
Right. So don't you think that they are different? So when you say that he sat
Yes,
at his
yes, yes.
desk, and he sat at his desk and he sat at his table, table could mean that he definitely, I mean, he could have been working, but he need not be working. But if he sat at his desk, then it implies that he was working at something. He was either studying or he was completing his his assignments, or he was drawing and or writing or typing or working on his work in terms of office work. That's what a desk implies. The desk has a specific purpose to its existence, which is more work related. And that's not the case with table. The desk is generally not used as a space for eating, but a table could be used as a space for eating, couldn't it be?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that is what largely the paper actually tries to deal with. And that is what we are going to be looking at in this. That's one part. That is a linguistic part, which is vocabulary. Let me ask you another question. When you say, luckily, the classes were cancelled yesterday, and you say, luckily, is there a difference between saying luckily the classes were cancelled yesterday and saying the classes were cancelled yesterday luckily? Sentence A, luckily the classes were cancelled yesterday. Sentence B, the classes, the classes were cancelled yesterday. Is there a difference?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
Ma'am.
What is the difference?
In first sentence, we are all opting for expressions also, like we are excited, more excited. Luckily.
And isn't that there in the second?
It's like casually we are saying.
I feel the grammar structure of both the sentences will also change.
Okay. What does that mean?
Because in the first sentence, we would write like luckily, comma, then the simple sentence, the classes were cancelled yesterday. And in the second statement, there needn't be a need of comma. So we can just write that the classes were cancelled yesterday, luckily. That's it.
What is the
Ma'am,
okay.
ma'am, there is a difference in the emphasis actually. That's what I feel. Like in the first case, when you're saying luckily, the emphasis is on, that stroke of luck. In the second case, it is more like, just matter of factly we are stating it that, yeah, the classes were cancelled. The focus is more on the cancellation of the classes and not so much on the luck factor.
So let me ask you this question. If a teacher comes to class, yes, to what you were saying just now, if a teacher comes to class, if a teacher comes to class and says classes are cancelled for the day and students start making noise and she wanted to change the thing to saying the classes are cancelled unfortunately, and the students start making noise hearing the words that the lectures are cancelled and they have a holiday and they start celebrating. And then, of course, the teacher will get into the loop of saying how bad you guys are as students. What is this entire premise? You guys don't understand. Whereas if she had started by saying, unluckily, the classes are cancelled, even if you had man mein laddu phoot rahe hai kind of feeling, because you've already got the first part which says unluckily, and that is the the speaker's perspective, you will change the way you are reacting. Will you or will you not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So that is basically the difference in terms of where we focus upon as grammar in terms of structure of sentences, position of words, how the meaning kind of emphasis may shift, meaning itself may shift. So as pointed out, he sat at his desk. This would be vocabulary or diction that you're talking about, right? So there is a particular emphasis and effect that words have, choices. The other thing that you would have is the fact that it could be focused on, one second, let me just bring this down. Yeah. It could be focused upon the fact that there is grammar or structure, order, sentence structures, right? This would be your semantic structures that are there. And they make a difference in saying unluckily or luckily classes are cancelled versus the way that you might react when you're talking about classes are cancelled unluckily. Okay. And you would use to bring in the other element of what was being spoken about as punctuation. You would bring in a comma even here, because what does a comma act as?
A pause.
So if I were asthmatic, does that mean that I will put a comma after every word in this sentence as I speak it? He came up the stairs. I'm pausing.
No, so I guess it will work more as a pause for emphasis. They will say unluckily, then I guess we can.
So the comma, to give it a very short explanation. Yeah, anyone who wants to speak?
Ma'am, it's
Okay,
like
the
a
ones,
lecture.
yeah, the ones who are not speaking, please do mute. But if you want to speak, please feel free to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, it's like a separator actually. Uh,
It is a separator in the sense of what?
like, it's somewhat, not totally related to the other. There are kind of two different ideas, and both are not totally related. So you kind of want to separate this out and, keep it different, not keep it in the same flow. So,
Not necessarily that they're not connected, right? So for instance, if I am talking about I'll give this. He went to the party which was thrown by his friends late in the day, late at night. If I give this as a sentence, isn't this using commas?
yes, ma'am.
Suman, if you're not able to hear the audio, please disconnect and reconnect. And also check the entire your connection. Okay. So that's something that you can look at. He went to the party which was thrown by his friends late at night. Now you can think about this in this way. You can look at it from the point of view of having a bracket. It is bracketing additional information. That is generally what a comma does. Is it either acts as a substitute for a noun or a pronoun, like not noun or pronoun, a conjunction, like when you say I like tea, coffee, and juice. So you would have a comma because you don't want to put in an and right there. So it acts as a substitute for a conjunction in a way. It also acts as bracketing of additional information. And so because at the beginning of the sentence, I have already got an open bracket, I'm just closing the bracket. And thanks, Hina, for the troubleshooting. And then in the entire in the second part also, you have the full stop acting as close bracket and the comma acting as open bracket. Here in the middle of the sentence, when it is coming, you will use two commas so that you clearly specify that this is additional information as bracketed information. Yeah. So that is what you would be looking at in terms of the uh, uh, elements of what a comma would be. But these are aspects to keep in mind when you're dealing with grammar to a certain extent. So this is something that we will deal with in the paper. What else will we deal with in the paper is stylistics. Okay, so the other element that you have is in terms of it, style. Uh, so this will include things like figures of speech. It will include elements such as emphasis. It will have, the order and organization. Hello, class. Who is talking? 1 second. You guys will have to mute yourself, not me. All right. Ideally, yes. So one of the things that you can look at is the figures of speech, organization. How does the flow come in? What are the kinds of devices and techniques used by the writer to present opinions, present points of view? So voice, what does voice mean? what is the narratology devices that are being used? What is it third person writing? Is it first person writing? So I am the author and I am the character also. Or is it that, it's a third person accounting? So those are the kinds of aspects that we will look at in style. We will also look at in style certain kinds of differences and variations that come about because you use the grammar structure. So the grammar element of linguistics is also style. For instance, it is correct to say unluckily the classes are cancelled. It is equally correct to say the classes are cancelled unluckily. But why would the author change the pattern? And also, is there grammar deviations that are occurring because the author wants to present a point of view, such as, incorrect English being used? Because the character perhaps is an illiterate person who is trying to speak broken English, does not know English at all, but is trying. And so the author may use, to keep that style of the character intact, the author may use incorrect English. So is it appropriate style? Is there a difference that comes in? Are the elements that we study in this part of the paper? है ना? Now, what that comes across is, let us take up something very simple like a simile. Have you studied a simile and a metaphor in school?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
So what is a simile
Comparison between two things.
and what is a metaphor? Both are comparisons, right?
yes, ma'am. Both are comparison.
So what is
Simile is
difference?
in simile, two things are compared using as and like.
Correct. Yes.
In metaphor, we give quality to a certain thing. We compare
Right.
a quality of a certain thing to something else.
Right. So this would be, he is a busy bee metaphor, which is an indirect comparison, as Jyoti rightly pointed out. And the simile is, he is as busy as a bee, which is a direct comparison, right? So this is an indirect metaphor, would be an indirect comparison, and simile would be a direct comparison. Now, let me ask you another question. What is more difficult for a child to understand?
Metaphor.
Why?
Because it's indirect.
So what will the child think? He is a busy bee means, what will the child think?
Probably the child will wonder how a person can be a bee.
Or maybe the child won't wonder, because the children, if you notice, are very good at imagining. And the child can very easily imagine that, the person becomes a bee, and it is Sasural Simar ka kind of scenario, where a direct, the heroine becomes a whatever, mosquito, insect, whatever she is supposed to be. But it is easy for a child to imagine. If you tell a child that there was a hungry lion and a man in a cage, and the man ate up the tiger, the hungry lion, the child is going to be able to believe that. The child is going to be able to see that. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that is the case?
One, because child has a vivid imagination, and I guess second, because he doesn't literally know the meaning of the phrase what busy bee is.
Okay, I switched to another example, but yes, the child, so children's books and editors in terms of writing are going to be looking at these elements, such as, what phraseology you use, what kind of linkages you bring in. And you will find that in the case of children's books, they will use, when it is young age children, like 3 years or 5 years of age, they don't even use similes, because even similes are difficult for a child to understand. So you have given qualities of a lion. Now the child has to extract from that one quality of a lion, like a brave lion or something like that. Or in the case of a bee, the fact that the bee is busy. But all the other aspects of the bee, such as the bee has wings, or that the bee is lives in honeycombs, or that the bee makes honey, or the bee has a stinger, or the bee has draws extracts dew and honey and makes it honey from flowers. All of that, the child, if the child has a concept of, the child has to know, oh, but that is all what he does not have. He only is as busy as a bee. Only this quality of the bee he has. Do you understand how difficult it is for a cognitive load for a child to be able to distinguish so many features of a bee and then be able to extract this one feature and then compare it with that other person who is not at all physically like a bee? It becomes a cognitive load. So you will find in those, if you read those kindergarten books of children's literature, they repeat sentences. They repeat things like, he picked up a red pencil and he colored the book. He then picked up a blue pencil and he colored the book. He picked up a green pencil and he colored the book. Why do you think that kind of repetition is used in children's literature?
Because that is how they imagine things being done.
Reinforcement.
Yes, reinforcement. And if you remember, if you look at children when they are playing games, I mean, it's fun to see this happening if you have building societies where children are there. They can run from one end of the wall to the other end of the wall, and you come back after 1 hour and they're still having a ball doing just that. Have you seen that? Or they're climbing 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, then they climb down 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, then they go up 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, and you come back after half an hour and they're still doing it, merrily doing it, happily doing it. Have you seen it?
Yes, ma'am.
So there is a lot of things where children are excited by even that ability, because physically, cognitively, they are growing in that phase where they, even repetition of exercises are new for them. It is absolutely new, and it is something that they are able to imagine, dream, and enjoy. These are aspects and attributes that you will have to think about, where what does the child do? And as a writer, as an editor of children's books, this is something that they will be concerned with and say that, oh, there must be a lot of repetition in children's books. So if you notice, a lot of children's books, they use names repeatedly. They will use the nouns repeatedly. They won't just go and write about the adjective, he, as much as they will use the name again and again and again. So if you had a story on Kalia, then they will be writing Kalia, Kalia, Kalia again and again and again. If you notice all those Enid Blyton books which are for children, you will notice in Noddy and all of that, the names get repeated all the time instead of just writing he. Why? Anyone?
Direct association.
Yes, direct association. The child does not understand he all the time, and quite a bit of those elements come about. So let me give you an example. Um, and then I'll come back to why this paper. All right. So an example would be, mm, You can see the screen clearly, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Twinkle. What do you think is happening? What do you think is happening?
Something bad or something unexpected has been happening with this character.
One
Yes,
situation is
yes.
explained using different adjectives.
Okay, yes, but what is the situation?
Situation of confusion, of something bad about to happen.
It's a situation of shock, ma'am. He's totally shocked. He's something unexpected has happened with the character, and like he can't believe it. And
Right.
so he's totally out of his mind, sort of.
Correct. Did
Something
you
like
expect the last sentence that I wrote in? Is that the
No.
sentence you were expecting?
No, no,
No, ma'am.
that's all.
Okay, so whose opinion is it that he was doomed and he was, mad and out of his mind and did not know what to do? Whose opinion is this?
It's his own opinion. It's
It
his
is
own.
his own opinion.
These are all the thoughts which are crossing his mind.
Or it can be author's opinion.
Now whose opinion is it?
Now it's the
It is
author's
Sajid's opinion. Sajid.
Right?
author's opinion.
No, is it the author's opinion? Where do you get the author's opinion?
Okay. Oh yes, ma'am. It's Sajid's opinion, not the author's. Correct.
In the second one, you do know that it is the character who thinks Sajid does not know what to do. Now, in the first one, do you think, what was your impression of the girl? Do you think that she was suitable for the guy, whoever the guy was? Do you think that, she seemed to be a good match or a bad match or anything like that? Did you have an opinion?
In his own eyes, she was unsuitable.
In his own eyes, it was unsuitable, and so you tend to believe it a little bit more.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Compared to the second one, where now you have Sajid's opinion.
Yes.
Why was Savan in love with that girl? Do you believe that it is a bad match?
Ma'am, it could be the other way around also.
Correct. In this one, you don't now any longer believe that that girl is necessarily a bad match. You are still not sure, but you are less suspicious of that girl. In the first one, you are a little bit more suspicious if this is a good match. You are a little bit more concerned about, whether this will turn out to be good. But in the second one, you're a little bit more amused by Sajid's overt reaction to Savan in that sense. You are not as concerned that this is an improper match because it is a third party's evaluation of love. And in the third one, you realize that now do you know in love, I should have said in love. So now do you know whose opinion it was? He was doomed. He did not know what to do. He was mad, crazy, out of his mind. If I change this to he and I say to this as Savan was doomed. He did not know what to do. He was plumb mad, crazy, out of his mind. He did not know how this could happen. Why was he in love with that girl? Do you now understand how the use of nouns and pronouns can make a difference in whose voice you are hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose opinion you are hearing. Now, for a child to be able to decode this, in this case, in the third one, when I changed the element from, Savan was doomed, and I pushed it in, if I'm placing these elements differently and I say he was doomed, and why was Savan in love with the girl? You know that again there is a difference in how this gets perceived. You know that in this case, you know that Savan was doomed may be the author's opinion or maybe the character's own opinion. You do not understand from the rest of this as a result of that, as a result of having the Savan was doomed stated at the beginning, you do not seem to understand whether the rest of this is actually dealing with Savan's opinion or the author's opinion. है ना? थोड़ा मुश्किल है. It is slightly difficult. Who is really speaking? Who feels that, there should be something to be done? Is it the author reporting Savan's sentiments, or is it the author reporting that Savan was doomed and then Savan did not know what to do and Savan was mad? Or is it some other character altogether, maybe, who thinks like this? We don't know. And even in this case, however, because Savan is given at the end, why was Savan in love with that girl? You realize that it may be a third character, someone, I don't know, give me a name with this, Ravi, who thinks that Savan was doomed. Ravi thinks that Savan did not know what to do. Ravi thinks that Savan was, plumb mad and out of his mind. And Ravi does not understand how this could happen. Why was Savan in love with the girl? It could be read like this. It can also be read that Ravi thought that Ravi was doomed. Ravi thought that Ravi did not know what to do. Ravi thought that he would go mad and out of his mind. And Ravi did not know what to do about Savan being in love with that girl. I can read it in two different ways, can I not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get how pronouns and nouns can make a difference in creating meaning and opinions and voices from just the use of these words? And how meaning changes by just introducing one noun or a noun in another place instead of one place. Just look at the third one and the fourth one, and you suddenly realize that just voice changes so much in just how you are placing it. है ना? This is what the paper is about. This is an overview of what the paper really is asking you to do. It is asking you to think about language use. It is asking you to think about elements of this language use that has to come through. That is what the paper is asking you to think about. I will show you what the paper's overall, structure looks like in terms of a question paper. You already have the syllabus in hand, but your question paper pattern I will share with you. The one thing that you will have to know is we are not sure as of now whether you will have this exam as a handwritten exam or whether you will have the exam as multiple choice questions, as was done for the earlier lot. We don't know this. And so it is important for us, for you to remember how the paper pattern can look like in a full length question paper, and also understand that your multiple choice questions will be mapped to the full length question paper. So I'm just going to share with you the screen again of how the question paper looks like. So this is how the question might be, where you're looking at a poem. As pointed out earlier, we will be doing poetry, and we will be doing the phonetic transcription of the poems, and I will share with you another answer key in a sense to see how that looks like. But you will be looking at how the words sound. So for instance, what is the effect of using certain sounds? Let me ask you another question. Someone to your right, okay, you are in one room all alone, you're in a corridor all alone, and you are in room 1, and someone to your right is screaming ah, okay, and someone to your left screamed out ee, okay, you're the only one. Whom will you go to help first?
To the right.
Left.
Someone to your
who
right
shouted.
says
One.
ah, and
Ah,
someone
yes.
to your
One.
left says
Right
e.
one.
Right one.
Right one.
Left one.
All of you, most of
Right.
you said right, ah. Why not e? Why ah?
Play sound
Is
more
pain.
like a sound of
Obviously
pain.
scared of something.
It indicates that the person who's in the right got hurt.
And e does not mean that. Maybe the
Must be
person is...
distressed or
He
scared.
saw something
Yes,
creepy.
yes, Walt. Distress versus disgust in the sense, yes. So generally when we scream it, even when we don't want, and we know this, and they have done this experiment around the world in various museums in various places, they've done experiments on this. There is neurolinguistics and psycholinguistics that we talk about, where we do experiments on how people react to sounds. And there are experiments done on whether people respond more to people and communicate more with people who say ah, ah, etc., versus e, kind of thing. Now, if you notice the way that my lips are structured when I'm saying this, you will notice that I have an open mouth when I say ah, or oh, or anything of that sort, compared to e, ooh, kind of thing, where my lips become spread and closed. And I hope you could have seen that, but you can also practice it at home. Now, closed, when your lips are closed, when your lips are spread, when your lips are open, are wide, rounded, there is a difference in perception also of how open you are to communicating with the external world, as opposed to being internalizing and reflecting on your opinions. And so there is an effect pattern that comes with sounds. There is an effect of sounds. There is an effect even in terms of when we were doing figures of speech, we talked about simile and metaphor. And I will come back to that point that I missed out in saying climax and anticlimax. But we deal with these elements. You don't generally use anticlimax in children's novels, because in very young children's novels, because children have not learned to predict. So if I say that the hungry lion and the man were locked up in a cage, and the man ate up the lion, the child will think that that is feasible, that the man ate up the lion, and he will say the man grew big and he ate the lion, and then he came back to his own size, and they are like, ha, ho gaya, chalega. It is only adults, when we know the prediction, we have certain knowledge systems, and we know this is to be happening, that we start predicting. And that is when anticlimax works. Otherwise, anticlimax won't work. Anticlimax works on your ability to predict. You thought something was going to happen and something else happened, and that is when you're like, oh, surprised. So the child is perpetually surprised. It doesn't matter what you say. You say the lion ate up the man and the man ate up the lion. It doesn't matter. The child is going to be equally saying, oh, in that manner. And that is the brilliant part of writing, and to understand it. But coming back to this element of sound, you will also find that, think about any tongue twister that you know. Can you give me any tongue twister, like kacha papad, pakka papad? Koi bhi? People who are chatting also can type. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 3, 2.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Yes. So if you notice all of these seashells, she sells seashells, butter, Betty bought some butter, or the earlier one, and Peter Pan, everything. A lot of them will use sounds which are hard sounds,
Red blood bad.
consonants. They will use. Yeah, Vivek. Sorry, you were saying something. I didn't hear it.
I was saying red blood, blue blood.
Yes. So, yes, you can use all of that. Yes, Vivek. And these elements where you are focusing upon, where you're talking about, they also have alliteration in them. There is the sound repetition at the beginning, isn't it? Like, Betty bought some butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought some better butter to make the bitter butter better. So if you're looking at that, the burr, 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 burr sound becomes repeated. A lot of tongue twisters have this repeated alliteration. And when you look at the use of alliteration, why is alliteration used? You realize that alliteration actually, if you read it, if you're not someone who has practiced using tongue twisters a lot, will slow you down in speaking. It will slow you down simply because your tongue is not able to move so fast between the sounds. And therefore, you start making errors because your tongue is like, moving left, right, up and down, up and down. It has to move back and forth to make the sounds. And therefore, you end up making mistakes when you are pronouncing the words. And the person who is hearing also has to distinguish these sounds and finds it difficult to do so. So they also try and tell you, slow down, we're not able to hear it too well. But they also create a rhyme and rhythm effect. So you realize how these kinds of sound patterns can have an effect of slowing down speech, enabling you to reflect. And authors use this very wisely, and especially poets use this wisely in order to create an effect of rhyme, in order to slow it down in terms of pace of talking, so that it gives you an internal space of reflection, or to give it a humorous twist by making it seem quite difficult for you to do. So these are the elements that come up. Someone had said, where can we read up on it? This is exactly more in terms of what we will be doing. There are two of us going to be teaching this course. One is Aarti, a dear friend of mine, and Aarti Punjabi, and she will be taking you through the phonology and question 1 to a certain extent. There will be also, she will take you through question 3 and a little bit of the question 4A, right? I will be taking you through question 2 and question 4, B and C to a large extent, and doubt solving sessions. So we will be doing them by and by. Henna. So this is how the poem will look. I mean, the question will look like. You will be asked to transcribe the poems, and you will be not the entire poem, but maybe the first 4 lines or anything of that sort. You will be asked to rewrite the poem. Write about the effects. So, what are the consonantal sounds effect? And you will be asked to again do it with vowel sounds, and then what are the effects. If it is multiple choice question, we will give you 2 lines or something and ask you what is the predominant consonant or vowel sound in this line. We can ask you other questions such as, this is the overall consonant sound. So do you think this effect maps to the sound? So we will be asking you questions of that kind. A lot of it is actually being able to use your general knowledge and what you did in this class to a certain extent, exercise your critical faculty to think about, why do we use metaphors, which is going to be more difficult to use. So can we use metaphors in very young children's literature, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the effect of certain kinds of parallelism and personification, etc. In your materials that you do have some kinds of examples given out here, and so you can definitely deal with it. I will recommend that when you look at the book, there are certain errors in the book. So Aarti will be sharing a phonetic chart and etc. with you. We will try and share the materials with Priya. We understand you have a Telegram channel in which this can be shared. So we will try and do that. And so that we'll consolidate everything, and maybe a Google folder which is made public. You can access the materials. Another place that you can go to is this site called Light Links. Yes, you will receive the links of the recorded sessions for revision. Yes, I can share with you the playlist and you can check it out there. So this is the site that basically I had started a long time ago and have not added to it, but this is where you can look up for your, answers and elements. So you can try and see this, okay? I mean, you can see that the last updated one is 2014. I have not gone back to this, but there are people who keep accessing, and sometimes they post comments on more help required, and I do respond to it by and by. So you can use this in terms of an outline for the paper. It has other materials also, but primarily I had started this blog for students who were doing this paper, and it was easiest for me to share the materials on the site itself. So for instance, when you are dealing with what I talked about in question 1, this is what you're expected to write. How do you like to go up in a swing, up in the air so blue? And this is how you would be expected to write. All right, and then look at the effects and where they are in terms of place, manner, articulation, and all of these are given to y'all as the entire list is given to y'all, but also we will share with you links and aspects of rounded, unrounded, etc. And what are the effects and elements, but in points, instead of writing it out as complete answers, you can figure it out, right? So the question is this. The second question that you get asked is the element in terms of, you will have a passage given and you are expected to be able to do a clause analysis of the passage, similar to what has been done here. So this is the passage, and then there are clauses, and we will go through this. Please don't get intimidated. We will go through this, and you can check the clause analysis from here. In addition, I have in English. I can't remember my YouTube playlist, but I will share with that link in the next class, or maybe I'll ask Aarti to share that link in the next class. So Priya could share with you that link, all right? So I will work on that. Or maybe update it in this site. I'll try and do that. So the playlist will keep getting updated and all your revisions can be taken up from there in terms of a singular playlist, so that you can go and check all this. So there's already 1 or 2 videos that I had uploaded on clause analysis for the last year students, because we had not got enough sessions because of COVID. So you could perhaps look up those for the revision and analysis. Those are slightly long videos, but I think it's fine. The element that comes out here is that don't worry about this so much. We will go through it, and it is not as difficult. But just as we were doing with the clause, with the sentence structures, here too, it is important to understand if there are many main clauses. If there are singular clauses, that means they are simple sentences, and simple sentences make it easy for you to comprehend, versus compound sentences or complex sentences, which have many more ideas. So they make it slightly more complex in terms of thought. So as a children's writing, generally you will see small sentences, simple sentences, a lot of main clauses, like the, that all was over kind of thing, gone, is written, versus for adult fiction, where you generally have longer sentences and more complex sentences written. And what is the effect that gets created in terms of apt passage and so on and so forth. The other element that you will have is, and so that is the point of phrase analysis and clause analysis. By the way, many of you would have already done some part of all of these clause analysis in 8th, 9th, 10th. If you remember, all of us had to do all the clause analysis and phrases and all somewhere. So this is just a higher order of doing it at a longer length and trying to understand what effects are created. Third is, of course, here also there will be style, such as the length of sentences, what is the effect, the author's use of imagery, what is the, how is it effective. The third question is narratology, where you are basically given a passage and then you are asked questions on the passage. So you have questions like these: whose voice do you hear in the passage? What linguistic features help you to decide that? So something very similar to what we just now did. And is the author omniscient, all-knowing? How do you decide? What is the character's relationship? What is the setting like? How do the characters develop? Is it, in simpatico? What is the tone and mood like? So those are the kinds of questions. What is the direct speech used? What is the effect? So those are the kinds of questions that you're asked in the passage. That is what we will be doing. And tense, of course. So these are the kinds of questions that are based on a passage. You will have to analyze a passage. A lot of it is knowing what these terms are, knowing what direct and indirect speech, etc. is, but also then going on to talking about, looking at the effect. And so there's a lot of reading comprehension. So basically for this paper, generally as a student, when I was there, we would just go watch a movie the exam before, because if you know what omniscient means, what author narrator are, what is alliteration, and all of those kinds of conceptual terms, you don't really need to study for this paper. The fourth A is dealing with some of what your application for all this is, right? Like cohesion, coherence, foregrounding, simile, metaphor, personification, like figures of speech. How are they used? Those are the kinds of short notes that you get. Okay, I'm so sorry. We've just lost electricity at home. So I hope that you are able to hear me now, class.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
on my cell phone, and I won't be able to share the screen as a result. So what I would do is, what I can do for you is what I was talking about. The next question, I'll just complete the part. The next question that you would have is, let me see if I can still share. You would have certain elements such as teaching questions, please do look at the site link that I had shared that has the question paper and the answers given. So the second 4A was, short notes. 4B is teaching questions. So a passage or document will be given out there. And a passage extract or a poem is given, and you're expected to formulate 10 teaching questions or 12 teaching questions on them to help you understand, to help the reader understand by answering the questions what the poem is about. So it's meaning making through constructive activities. That is what the the idea will be. The third one, the 4C, is an academic passage is given to you, and you are expected to be able to identify what the passages are going to be dealing with, what is the role of the introduction, what is the role of a linking word like however, what does however signify, why do you use, what is the difference between however and furthermore? So how are these elements there? Those are the kinds that you will have to deal with in the 4C. Now, out of 4A, B, and C, you are expected to write on any 2 questions. But if you have multiple choice questions, like we had last time, if COVID-19 continues and its lockdown effect continues, we may not have exams in person. If that is the case, then you will have questions on, elements. Yeah, you will have questions on elements such as each of these topics being covered, and you choose and you tick mark the multiple choice questions. So for instance, one of the questions I can ask on is, what is the role of introduction? Which of the following does introduction not do? Excite the imagination of the reader, give an overview of what the paper is, what the following passage is to be about, explain the structure of the paper as it will, be outline the structure of the paper, or present the entire argument of the paper. Which of this is the introduction, not, and the fifth one, none of the above. Which will be your answer?
Present the entire structure is not what the introduction.
It does present an entire structure. Introductions and academic writing do present the outline.
Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. There was one option which you said about the entire argument.
Yeah. So introductions can actually do each of this. Introduction can, in an academic writing text, be presenting the main argument of the text in itself, in the first paragraph, right? You could, for instance, think about your answers, which is a part of academic writing. You could be presenting your opinion of the text or of the passage in the first paragraph itself. You can be saying that I will explain A, B, C in this order in the first paragraph. So to outline the structure of the argument. You can say that this is going to be the, excite the imagination of the reader. So there could be certain introductory sentences in opinion pieces, etc., where you are trying to open up with a very controversial or a very, a very exciting kind of quote in order to be dealing with it. So introductions can actually play all of the roles that I outlined, and I forgot the other option, but they can actually play all the roles that I outlined, and they don't have to be limited in that sense, and it is therefore none of the above. So we will deal with all of this in the classes. This is the 4B and 4C are the topics that I will be dealing with along with question 2. So Aarti and I have kind of evenly divided up the classes. I have 8 sessions or so with you. Aarti has 7 sessions or so with you. And so we will work with all of those to a certain extent, and hopefully you will be prepared and excited about the paper. The paper itself is in order to enable you to teach better, to edit better, to write better, and also I hope to analyze literature better is what the purpose of this paper is. It has very practical applications. If you really, hone your craft, editing, writing, etc. is there of the things. Yeah, 1 second, just give me a second. That is fine. I think because I'm on my cell phone, it will be easier for me to share. Just give me a second. I should have my playlist placed here. So this one has actually a good idea. Thanks for sharing. Walt, how did you get that? So the link that I shared is the playlist. One that Walt found is one of the videos from the playlist. But what I have shared with you is the playlist link. Yes, Walt, that is the YouTube. The sharing of the answer key, if you notice the light links blogspot that I shared with you, that has the answer key to one of the question papers, right? What I shared with you was the answer key to the question paper. I will share a couple more, definitely through the class or through the Telegram channel, through Priya. Or I will try and upload all of these in that light links blogspot itself and try and see what I can do about it. Yeah. So I hope that works for you. Anything? Yeah, so that brings me to the end of what this paper is about and what the overview of the paper is. If you have doubts, I'm willing to stay on and answer queries. But overall, officially, the class you can think of has ended. So any questions, doubts, queries, please feel free to ask. And please do share these links with your things. Yeah. Yeah. So if for those who missed out or anything, you can share them. I will update on the same playlist the recording to this particular session, and all of Aarti's sessions, etc. will be uploaded here. That also. So all our sessions will get uploaded onto this playlist.
Okay, on this playlist.
Any other questions?
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Walt. Yes.
Yeah, just clarifying, ma'am, you said you'll share the videos on this playlist that you shared with us just now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
It will be easier, right? Because then everything is in one place.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, class, that is it. Thank you, everyone. The next class that you have is as per your timetable. Aarti will be taking that lecture, but the Zoom link remains the same for all the sessions of linguistic and stylistic analysis. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Thank you so much,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
ma'am, there in the session, do you have any idea?
Sorry, Priya is not there in the session. It's a bank holiday and it is a thing. I couldn't take the session yesterday because I was not well. So I'm sorry for that.
But you're fortunate,
otherwise,
ma'am, because had you taken it yesterday, I would have missed it for sure because I'm also working and, I wouldn't have been able to log in at 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's good that we had it today in a way.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right. Don't worry. Yeah, sure. Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye, ma'am. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
I'll end the session and go back. You too, Walt. Thank you.